My name is Kalissa Calixto, and this is my testimony.
Tell me about your past. Tell me about your childhood.
So I guess I'll start from when I was born. My dad went to the Navy when I was 3, so my mom was a single mom. I was around my dad's family, but he came back around 3 years old. And I lived with my mom up until I was 7, and then at 7 years old, um, she gave me to my dad because she had my sisters and wasn't with their dad, so she just felt like it was better that I went with them with my dad. Um, and yeah, I would say I had a pretty good childhood. Um, like any house, there were ways of discipline that weren't easy for me, but I would say that if I look back at my childhood, I did have a good childhood. Um, I was around the age, I'm not really sure when it started, but I remember being exposed to sexual things from a very young age. And then I would say, like, around 9 years old, I discovered what masturbation was. And yeah, it was something that was over me, but I don't say that I did it often. And I got disciplined for it because I got caught one time, and I just kind of let it go. I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know what the word was. That's kind of how I know that it was spiritual, because just a voice in my head kind of told me. But I never knew what the word was. I didn't find out what it was until I was in high school. So yeah, I got introduced to sexual things from a very young age. And then, yeah, I always just growing up, I just felt like the chubby kid and the outsider, and like, why do other girls have boyfriends and I don't? And why are they getting attention and I'm not getting attention? So it was something that always kind of bothered me. And my self esteem was very low from a young age. I remember just always feeling like nobody wanted me, like none of the boys wanted me. And so, yeah, that started that want for attention, and then not feeling like I was really getting it at home. But my parents loved me. I will say that my parents did love me. I just felt like there was something that I wasn't getting. Um, so yeah, and then I would say at around age 13, my mom married my stepdad. Oh, I forgot to mention, when I turned 8 years old, so in 2000 or 7, 8 years old, my mom gave her life to the Lord. And so I was exposed to church from a very young age. So I lived with my dad, but on the weekends I was at church. Every single night we would pray, though. I remember every night before I went to bed, we would pray, and me and my dad would pray together. And then when he put me down to sleep, he would close the door. And I just remember praying to myself, like, Lord, I don't want to go to hell. Forgive me for my sins. Because I had a scope of like what sin was, being exposed to the church from a young age, but I didn't understand the fullness of Christianity. So I would say that every single night. And my dad was involved in some way with the Lord, but not in the way that my mom was. So I was able to see, I was able to see miracles, see the Lord move in my mom's life and things like that. So I always believed in God. But yeah, that was really what I got. I got it on the weekends, so I was exposed to it. And then from so yeah, when I was 13 years old, my mom married my stepdad, and that is a whole nother crazy story. But I will mention this just because dreams are a factor in my testimony. But when I was, I don't know, maybe 12 years old, my mom discovered that maybe Benny might be the one, my stepdad might be the one that she marries. She felt like the Lord was telling her that, but she needed confirmation. And I so happened to be the one that the Lord used to give a dream to confirm this. And I wasn't really a dreamer. So, when I did have dreams like that, I shared them. So I told my mom, and that was confirmation for her to marry my stepdad. So in 2014, I believe, they get married, and they were still living in Chicago. And at the time, they ended up leaving the church that they were a part of. And so we went to this one, I would say they were like missionary it was a missionary family. And I remember the wife's name, I believe, was Sharon. And this one Sunday they gathered in, um, I believe he was a chiropractor and he was a Christian, and they let that family use his practice as like a church service gathering building. So that Sunday we met there, and I just remember sitting in the crowd and just listening, but out of ignorance. Like I didn't never really understood what I was learning. It was always kind of like it fell on bad ground. Like I was learning things to a certain extent, but most of the things I learned was like in one ear, not the other. So I always felt like I was trying to be attentive, but it would never stick. So I just remember sitting there and just trying to pay attention and curious about what she was saying. I don't remember what she said. All I remember her saying is like, something, something, cry it out. If you're feeling this, and she was praying for people. And all of a sudden, I think I was like 12 or 13. No, they were married in 2014. So I was 13. And I just remember crying and I couldn't understand. It was like a unexplainable feeling. And now I know it was the Holy Spirit. But at the time, I'm like, what is this? Like, why am I crying? I just remember her saying, cry it out. But I don't know what she said before that. And I just start crying and crying and crying. And she saw me because the place was small. And she calls me up to the front. And I just started crying and she was praying for me. And I just remember specifically her praying against the spirit of lust over my life. So the Holy Spirit revealed to her that that had a chokehold on me, not knowing me, and she prayed against it. And again, I didn't know what that word was. I had never heard it in my life, but it stuck with me for the rest of my life. Like up until I got saved, I knew what that word. Finally understood what the word was, but it stuck with me. And yeah, after that, I just continued to live my life. So a year after my stepdad and my mom got married, they ended up moving to Wisconsin, and so the experience and the connection to church kind of just cut off, and I wasn't exposed to it really anymore. And I started high school. My, teenage years, I would close my door, be in my room. Me and my dad just kind of stopped praying together at nighttime. I don't really know why it stopped. It just did. And for a little bit, I continued to pray every night that I wouldn't go to hell. Because I kind of had a grid for God. I kind of understood that He was real because of that experience that I had when I was younger. That's what always kept me holding on. Also, the fact that I could see the Lord moving in my mom's life. I could see certain things in my mom's life that made me wonder and kind of just hold on to that belief that there probably is a God. But that's really all I could say about who God was to me in this season of my life. He wasn't a huge character, but I knew He was real in a way. I always kind of questioned, is God real? Is He not? And that was something the enemy loomed over my head. Is heaven and hell really real? And I allowed that to help me have a clear conscience to continue just living however I wanted to. So I would say my freshman and sophomore year, I kind of just did my own thing, had my friends. And then junior year is kind of where everything turned. Towards the end of junior year, I befriended somebody that I was friends with before, and I started vaping and I drank for the first time and had an opportunity to lose my virginity, and I didn't out of fear. I think my mom always tried to instill in me, that is something you hold on to till you're married. And part of me in my subconscious knew that it was wrong, so I didn't end up doing it. And then senior year comes along, and I end up talking to a guy at my school. And 3 months before I turned 18, I lost my virginity. And I had found out soon that, that relationship was not going to be a good idea for me, but I still continue to stay in it. I think just because part of me didn't want to feel like the person I lost my virginity to meant nothing to me, because part of me knew that that was supposed to be something special and I gave it away. So for me, I just decided to stick with it. And so, yeah, that's basically how my senior year was. I don't think that relationship was a healthy relationship. It was something that I was in that never had any labels on it. It was just like we were together, but we weren't. So it was not very good for me. So fall 2019, I started college. The guy that I was with still lived here, and I was in college, and I had one friend that went with me to college. So for me, it was kind of hard because I was thinking about what he could be doing. And then in school, and I started smoking weed and kind of using that. I don't really remember, to be honest, why I started. I feel like I started smoking weed because the people around me were smoking weed, and it kind of helped me and the way I was feeling and just all the thoughts and questioning what he was doing, and so that started my weed smoking journey, I guess. So I started smoking weed freshman year of college, and I became really depressed again, just like in that relationship wasn't very healthy for me. So yeah, I just got really depressed. Um, at the beginning of the second semester of college, I COVID happened at the beginning of the second year of college. COVID happened, and so everybody was cut off from everything, and so that just kind of my me smoking weed just became on 10. Instead of smoking it, after class or at the end of the day, I was smoking it all day. I was still seeing the guy, but I just felt like things were starting to slow down, where I was slowly losing interest in continuing that relationship. Um, and I decided that I needed to seek therapy because I just couldn't do it. Never once did I think God was an option. I don't know why. I just never went to Him. And so, yeah, I was struggling through depression and I was seeking therapy. And soon after, I realized that like weed wasn't really helping me. So I kind of slowed down on the weed smoking towards the end of the summer of 2020. Yeah, that was 2020. At the end of 2020, I kind of slowed down, and I started talking to somebody that I used to be friends with, and we would hang out all the time. And then I cut the guy that I was talking to off just because, again, it wasn't a good relationship. And then I just remember just hanging out with her all the time, smoking, us both kind of just being, in the state that we were. And I feel like, to mention, a lot of the music that I was listening to was feeding off of that like depression, and like I was listening to like a lot of Juice World and Trippy Red, and all of that just kept me in that cloud of just like loneliness and sadness. Even though I had a friend that I was with all the time, I just always kind of felt sad and lonely. Um, and then I just remember that summer I ended up. So that was summer 2021. So I believe this was 2021. So yeah, okay. So around the springtime of 2021, I end up going to visit my mom. And throughout the years, she's always told me, "Come live with me. It'll be easier." But I didn't want to because I knew that she was living a sanctified, holy life, and I didn't want to. I didn't want that. I also always had the idea in my head that, oh, when I'm older, I'll serve God, or like eventually I'll serve God, but not right now. So when she would always tell me to live with her, it was not an option for me. I just didn't want to do it. But at this point, I felt like I needed some time away. That one day she picked me up from Chicago. She was in the car. We were in the car, and she noticed that I was depressed. She noticed the sadness on my face, and I was pretty good at hiding it. But the Lord revealed it to her this day that something's wrong with her. And she asked me, and I just started crying, and I shared with her, everything that I was going through. And she brought me in with, warm arms, and told me, no judgment, that she loved me, and that maybe I should take some time away from Chicago. So I did. I ended up staying there for a couple of months. So this was probably from March until May. And right before I was going to move back to Chicago in the summer, I remember her asking if we wanted to go with her to Georgia on a road trip. And we were going to go visit this church that was having like a revival baptism service. They were having it, they were already in a revival, apparently. So she asked if we wanted to go. She asked if me or any of my sisters wanted to get baptized. And for some reason, I said yes. I don't know why I did. I wasn't serving the Lord. I wasn't interested in the Lord. I was still vaping. I had stopped smoking weed, really, for the most part. But I was still vaping, and I was still living a life of sin, and, doing everything that I was doing. And I also forgot to mention before that, I was in a lot of sexual perversion and things of that sort, just trying to use guys to get over the other guy. So that was also part of my life. It was a lot of that and just trying to find love and trying to fill that hole in my heart. So I was in the mix of all of that, and I still said yes. I want to get baptized. I don't know why, but I said yes. So we go to Georgia, and I just remember sitting in the back of the sanctuary where everybody sits, because the baptism tank was attached to the sanctuary, so you had to come through the back to get in. So everyone who was getting baptized was sitting in the hallway, and there were TVs on the top. And I just remember looking at the TVs and watching everybody get baptized. And there it goes again. I just start crying, and I'm like confused, like, why am I crying? What is this feeling? And it was the same feeling that I had when I was 13, which was the Holy Spirit. I didn't know it at the time, but I just felt like confused of why I was crying when I saw these people getting baptized. And I don't know, I just had a feeling. And so I get baptized, and I just remember the guy saying, "It's time for you to step out of the sidelines." And I didn't know what that meant. I just remember feeling this euphoric feeling, going in the water, crying, and that was it. And I went back to Chicago, and I just continued to live how I was going to live. I really think that that was a moment that the enemy was like, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to cut her off, because she's not going in that direction, because things got worse for me. So I go back to Chicago, and I ended up going back in my friend group, getting in touch with some other friends I used to be friends with, started trying something with another guy, get my heart broken again. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to college. And so I forced it so bad. I had to get a loan out. This is a whole other story, but I forced it so bad that I went back to college, got myself into some more debt. And first week of school, meet a guy, end up getting my heart broken again. And then there goes the cycle of me trying to use guys again to get over things. That first week of college, I got into drinking, because now I'm not smoking. Now I'm not depressed in college. Now I meet people. So now I'm partying. Now I'm drinking. And the first week of college, I remember um, falling off a fence, blacking out, and just unconscious. I woke up the next day, and didn't really have the biggest scratches on me. Like, it was crazy. I literally had a mark here, a mark on my elbow, and a couple on my face. Like, the Lord preserved my life so many times. And I just remember not acknowledging him at all. Just like, okay, it is what it is. And I continued drinking, I continued partying. And because of that heartbreak, I just kept on in the cycle that I was in. And I flunked out of school again. Yeah, and I just remember that spring semester, I just continued to go over to school. Even though I was not in school anymore, I continued to go over there and just party, drink. And during like these years, it was just a lot of like people in and out of my life, and a lot of like ups and downs with just like trying to find something that I wasn't getting. And that summer, I was just, I stopped being friends with some people, and started talking to other people, and the drinking just became really bad. Like, I was drinking so much that I was sick all the time, and I tried to stop vaping, and I couldn't stop vaping. Like, I wanted change in my life, it just wasn't coming. And I just remember the fall of 2022, my grandma moved away, and it kind of forced me to make a decision of whether I was going to stay in Chicago or not. And I could have I could have stood with my dad. I just chose to move in with my mom finally. I just figured, you know what? I need a change in my life. I'm going to move in with my mom. I'm going to save money, and I'm going to move out in 5 months, because I had done it before. That spring before, I saved money, got a car. So I figured I'll do that again with an apartment. In the beginning of fall, I already knew my grandma was leaving, and after she left, I just figured, okay, I'm gonna move into my mom's house. It's time to get everything on my system, party, and yeah, my last hurrah. So a week before I was gonna move into my mom's house, I went out with some friends, and I ended up getting put over, and I got a DUI. And this was like the end of the end. I'm like, I'm already moving out. I already feel like my life is sinking ship. I'm just, I'm over it. And then I get a DUI, and now I have to tell my mom that I got a DUI, and it was hard for me, but um, yeah, it just happened. And so I ended up moving to my mom's house in December, beginning of December. A month or so after I moved into my mom's house, I was going to sleep one day, and I remember watching a testimony because my mom had showed me some testimonies that she's seen. Also, I want to mention this. I don't remember why, but for some reason that New Year's I didn't go out. Like knowing me, I would have went out. I don't know what it was. I feel like nobody was doing anything, but I didn't go out. I literally spent the New Year's at my mom's house, literally falling asleep before midnight, and that's not like me. And I know I wasn't saved yet, but I feel like that was just a representation of like the shift that the Lord was going to do in my life because I don't know. I just remember that. I was not saved yet, but I spent the New Year's in the house and I went to sleep before midnight. I wish I knew the exact date I was saved. I wrote down the dream in my notes and it disappeared shortly after, so I don't know the exact date. I just know it was in January. Mid-January, I went to sleep. I was watching a testimony. I don't know why I wanted to watch a testimony. I never watched testimonies. I always watch mukbangs before I go to sleep. I don't watch them anymore. But I used to watch mukbangs before I went to sleep. I don't know why. And so I was watching a testimony. I'm like, this is about a woman who struggled with alcohol at a young age or something like that. So put it on and I watch like the first 5 minutes and I fall asleep. And when I fall asleep, I go into this dream. And like I said, I never really dreamed, but when I did as a kid, it was always significant. Like my mom getting married to Benny, who I didn't know she was going to end up with. Didn't even know that that was on her radar. So for me, dreams were significant. I know that's why the Lord used this. And so in the dream, I just remember it was pitch black. And there was a kid in front of me. He looked like Sid from Toy Story, like buzz cut, real bad. And he starts kicking like this reptile thing. And he's like kicking it, and we're laughing and like, whatever. Kicks it. Next thing you know, it eats him. And I wasn't laughing no more. I'm like, what's this? And we started going up like a spiral. And I just remember it was a line of people. I couldn't see the people, but in my mind, I knew it was a line of people. And we're going up this spiral. And at every level, somebody's getting eaten by the reptile snake creature. And by the time we got to the top, it was my turn. And then I knew consciously my sister's here with me. And I just remember her asking me, like, it was my turn, but she was there with me, asking me, tell me that I'm gonna be okay. Tell me that everything's gonna be okay. And I couldn't give her a clear answer. And I had anxiety in the dream, like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And I knew in my mind that this was hell. I knew in my mind that it was my turn to go to hell. And I kind of questioned if that was real or not in the dream. And I think that's because in my subconscious, and I knew that in life, I was living with that question over my head. Is heaven real? Is hell real? Are these things real? And that was the way that I was able to live how I was living. And just like that was the way I was able to let go of any type of feeling that I felt of this is maybe wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. That was the only way I was able to live that lifestyle because I was able to use that as an excuse. So I know that's why that was in the dream. So I wake up from the dream after her asking me, is this real? Is this not? Is this real? Is this not? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I wake up. And at the time, we are living in an apartment because my mom didn't know I was going to move in. So they had a 2 bedroom, and me and my sister shared a bed and a room. And I just remember laying next to her. She's knocked out, and I'm just laying there super hot, like I was just in hell. Like I'm super sweaty, super hot, and just there. And instantly I just started crying because I knew that that was God. I knew that He gave me that dream, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I got up out of my bed, and I will say I crawled right into my mom's bed. I was scared. And the next day, I just felt like I had a choice to make. I felt like that was God. I couldn't explain it. I just knew that was God. And I had a choice. And I made the choice to change my life and give my life to Him. And I will say that it wasn't an easy journey, that the decision to do that was hard. Even living at my mom's, even having, those people around me to help give me guidance, it was a hard choice to make, but I knew it was the right choice to make, and I don't regret it at all. I think it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. And if I look back at all the times that I know he saved me from death, like there had been times I remember driving home literally high, drunk. And I just remember a voice in my head saying, like, pay attention. You don't want to die right now. Pay attention. Like, literally, the Holy Spirit, the Lord, was over my life, preserving my life. Even when I was not His, He still preserved my life. He knew. Even when I moved to Wisconsin, before I even said yes to Him, He had a job lined up to me that I had no experience at all to get. And He got me that job, knowing that I was going to have a DUI, that I couldn't drive. So I had a ride to work every single day because I worked with my mom. Like, He set me up before I even said yes to Him. He gave me provision to work. After I got saved, it was just like this journey of allowing Him to just cleanse me, to heal me. Like, I got deliverance in my own living room because I was just open to Him taking it all. And there was so much that I had on me. Like, I was addicted to vaping, like I said. Up until the point that I got saved, I vaped every single day. I tried throwing them out. I tried flushing them down the toilet. I tried throwing them on my car. I tried it all, and I still kept going back to that thing. I couldn't get rid of it. And it wasn't until the Lord that I got rid of it. Like, He instantly took that away from me. And it's just crazy to think that I tried for so long to stop vaping. I tried for so long, and it was an instant yes to Jesus. And that's not the case for everybody. That was the case for me. I will say that, like I said, the journey of allowing the Lord into my life has not been a cakewalk, nor have I been perfect. Like the first couple of months after I got saved, I did mess up. I did drink, and I felt so convicted. I did vape because that was a thing. It was like, you drink, you vape, it's together. That was a thing that loomed over me. Like, I can't believe I did this. And just like sitting in that conviction, which was a good thing. But, you know, I think that the Lord used that opportunity just to show me that there's nothing for me back there. You know, that's not you anymore. And He's done so much of, yeah, I don't even know where to start. I mean, that was just the beginning. There's been so much reconciliation in my family, in my life. I think the whole first year of me being saved, this is going to be year 2 in a couple months, it was a lot of like Him just taking things out and showing me the love that He has for me, showing me that the love that I was looking for this whole time in people and in things and in substances and in guys was Him. I was looking for Him. The hole in my heart was Him.
Now talk to the person who is looking for the solution to the hole in their heart.
So if you're somebody who is recognizing that there is something in your heart that's missing, oh, I keep touching the mic. If you're somebody who's recognizing that there is a hole in your heart that's not filled, that there is something in you that you're looking for, there's just something, like, I'm happy, I got all the money, but there's something missing. Or I'm sad and I'm using these things, but something's missing. What you're missing is Jesus. Because it wasn't until my eyes were open and I truly understood and was able to see who I was made for that I realized that that was the person. The hole in my heart was Jesus. Nothing or no one ever will fill that hole in your heart. He, like a boy or a girl, He wants to romantically just like take you in and love on you and give you that love that you need. Because no matter how much you try and fill it with all other things, nothing else is going to fill you. It's like you don't realize you need it until you get it, and then you realize, this is what I needed the whole time. This is what I was looking for. Like, I can't imagine my life without Him. And I would say, like, in my story, I can sit here and recollect and remember on all the times that, He saved me. And I'll forever want to remember these things because this is what keeps me in a state of gratitude. But I will say that I can't remember the feelings. I can't remember being depressed. I remember I was depressed, but I don't remember the feeling. I can remember being angry. I can remember, you know, the shame. I can remember all these things, but I can't remember the feelings, how I felt during those times, because he just came and he washed me. He just came and he showed me love. He just came and he opened my eyes to realizing my true value and who I am and what I was made for. And I'm forever grateful. And the reason that I share my testimony in all vulnerability and in all realness and truth is because I know that there are people out there who don't realize that the hand of God has been over their lives. They don't realize that I am alive today because Jesus has preserved my life, because God loves me and he preserved my life in hopes that I choose him. Having a relationship with Jesus is not a forceful thing. He loves. So he gave his life for you, but he's not going to force you to love him. He's waiting for you to choose to love him. And if you don't, that's a choice you live with. I was going to pray for anybody watching this that, you know, you would accept it and just be able to reflect on your life and see where Jesus is at in your heart. Lord, I come before you and I just thank you for this time to share my testimony and to share how you've changed my life in just 2 years, Lord. It's just hard to believe. There's so much more I could have shared. There's so much more that you've done, Lord, that I'm just forever grateful, Lord. I just pray for every single person who is hearing my testimony right now, Lord. I just pray that you would just begin to touch their hearts and just show them how you have been faithful in their life, how you have preserved their lives, Lord. And I just pray that, Holy Spirit, you would touch their hearts, Lord, as you did to me, Lord, that you would draw them in and show them how much you truly love them and desire a relationship with them. We thank you for their lives. And I pray this all in your name. Amen.